aren't able to attend this session, or next week we're doing a duplicate run, then we will have that recording available. Okay, so this is what we're going to be looking at in the hour. The format for this, I'm hoping, is going to be not very long, of me talking through these slides to give you a high level insight into the new system and what the benefits are for you as code members. And then really we want to try and generate some good Q&As. As I said earlier, no question is silly. I don't think I did say that earlier. I think I said that when I was practicing. So yeah, ask any questions, please. You can use the chat, and we'll be keeping a monitor on that and trying to answer live in chat. You can put your hands up through the session, or we can sort of wait until the end. So entirely whatever you're feeling comfortable with. So the code system then is available to all members of the code, and it's used to track your code compliance activities. And currently we have a system which you can join by contacting the code team. We set up members, and then you're good to go. So this system has been developed by RSM. And we've had a dedicated core team of code members and the code team here, and their code expertise has been instrumental in testing and validating the tool to make sure that it aligns with the code standards and supports code activities, with obviously RSM Dave in the background to produce all of the technical magic. We've recognised very much that the change is challenging, and we don't want people to be sort of nervous or anxious about this new system. Our team's here to support you absolutely every step of the way. We've invested thoroughly in training and resources to make it a smooth as transition as possible. And we've actually just completed what we're calling phase 2 testing, where we brought in some code member volunteers, very kindly offered to act as newbies to the system, and we set them off with a task, a set of guides, and we had some really positive feedback from that whole process. People saying that they felt it was fairly self-intuitive, and that the self-help guides were perfect to help people through. So just a final bit of preamble before we move through the slides. I wanted to say that this presentation is really focusing on the core activities. So our ambition is to get code members up on the new system, doing the things that they do every day now, with as little sort of upheaval as possible. There's functionality in the system that we're just glossing over at the moment, but we will start to sort of bring that in and help people make use of it. For example, we've got brilliant reporting functionality in here. Okay, so access to the system then. So it's a web-based system. You're very similar to now. You'll get a username and password. Your username will be your .ac.uk email address. When you access the system, you've got an admin menu that you can get to user management, reporting, and so on. And there's also an icon there on the top right that lets you log out. When you log in, you will see the system dashboard, and this is what that will look like. So you've got a series of big boxes of widgets that are showing in the main part of the screen, and they're simply shortcuts to the code activities that you regularly want to jump into. So if you want to look at your buildings list, for example, or any audit recommendations that are still open, you've got that shortcut option from the widgets. The widgets, you can see that some of them look like charts, Excel charts, and some of them have got little icons next to the name of the item in it, and they're all in dynamic, so you can click to drill down further. The other thing that's coming up very small on the slide, but once you log in for real, these boxes at the top underneath the main menu are also shortcuts to areas of the system that you'll regularly be accessing. So that's a really useful tool. There's a search functionality. Top right, we've got the search box. And in addition to that, you've also got a filter criteria pull out over on the left here, so you can really drill down and find the things that you're interested in and that you need to update. User guide. So the initial set of guides and videos has been created as a self-service resource for members to reference for core operational activities relating to the code. The benefit of self-service is that the guides are there ready available. So if you get stuck, you don't have to wait till 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. You've got guides and so on there to help you. The other point that I wanted to make about the user guides is that they do offer a really high quality resource for training staff. As you know, we've got a series of roundtables that we're doing at the moment, but we would also encourage people to use these videos for staff training in their institutions. And to add that we tested the guides in our phase 2 testing and again found them extremely helpful in terms of using. So users and roles, the big departure and a real benefit in the new system is that we're creating a super user role, and that person will likely be your institution lead who's responsible for code within your institution. And we did actually do a bit of a campaign recently to find out who your lead users are. So if you didn't respond to that or can't remember responding, just drop us an email. So the benefit for institutions then is that the super users will be able to create some of the core data within the system. So they'll be able to set up users, create buildings and so on. There's some functionality around making users active or inactive, which we feel will be extremely useful, particularly if you've got an idea in your institution of assigning tasks to individuals who may not be part of your team. You can set them up as an inactive user, and it just gives you that audit trail of who's responsible for what without sending emails out to people and so on. The sensitivity is a feature within the system that allows super users to control what people have, what users can view and edit and so on. So again, beneficial sort of additional control. And groups refers to your institution. So when we log in, you as members will see your institution only. I'm just thinking, Meredith and Dave, if there's anything you want to add into this as I go along, please do. If I've missed anything out that's really vital. Moving on then.
I was just going to say, sorry, I was just going to say that I think the key is that we're sort of making available the use that if you want to create users and get them logging into the system to take ownership of their audit recommendations or complaints, then that's allowed within the system now.
Thanks, Dave. Really useful. Okay, moving on to the buildings part then. So the benefits for building data in the new system is that we're going to encourage people to use the system live. So you know, instead of having the annual Scrabble to get your building list submitted, you can interact with this daily, or however your process works, to update building information. In terms of what you can see on the screen, the red box is surrounding, that's the building widget on the dashboard, and the little icons on the right hand side of the lists allow you to drill down into that particular building. You can see we've got some interesting buildings here. So these are only test buildings. We haven't really got Cluckingham Palace or Test Hall. Clicking on that link then will allow you to see a building summary. And what's so brilliant about this is it contains the description of the building, including the address. On the right hand side here, you can see who's the building owner. There's also the option to have a building delegate, so you might have a different member of staff who's got different levels of responsibility. The status of this building is open. It shows you down the bottom right what the building consists of. And then over on the left hand side, we've got some mandatory fields that allow us to report on things such as whether it's a university owned building, university managed head lease, lease cycle. The building status is an option that super users can change the building status if it's not going to be available for students, and you don't want to be part of your building count and so on, or to be compliant with the code. That can be made inactive. I think that's the right term. Dave will correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. It just allows you to sort of put buildings in a planning state, or if they've been made dormant, and it's a filter that's available on the report, so you can easily sort of slice them out of that report if you need to.
Thank you. So complaints. There's a requirement, as we know, for institutions to report on complaints that have reached stage 2 and 3 in the code definition. So again, looking at the screenshots on here, you've got the open complaints widget. Obviously, these are only test ones. We haven't really got any complaints. Well, we haven't really got 6 complaints against Meredith. And they are dynamic, so you can click to open the complaints list. So you can see at the bottom of the screen, I've got open complaints for whoever had to, Tracy, I think they're her complaints. And then you can drill down further to add updates, close it, and so on. This is a screenshot of the triennial audit for Bangor University. That looks pretty accurate to me. I know the system is going to be wiped and all of the new data put in once we roll it out, but Rain's kindly sent me a screenshot of what her audits look like here, and you can see a full the screenshot at the bottom is just a summary of what the audit details are, who's the owner, who it's been assigned to, what the timing is, if it's on track, and so on. Audit findings. So again, repeating really how the system works. You can click on your widget bar to open up an audit recommendation. You can drill down further to look at the audit actions, and there you've got a box that allows you to update any progress into that. And the final thing that we're really excited to share is that we have now functionality for self-audit. And as you'll be aware, that annual self-audit is now mandatory for the code. You don't have to declare it. There's no submission date, but we are recommending it as a way of supporting the triennial audit, so that you're not starting from scratch every 3 years. You've got data to go back on. And this system has the option of doing that self-audit online. We're not suggesting that people don't stop using their current methods of self-audit, because we've had sort of conversations with members where they've got really useful systems set up on SharePoint or spreadsheets, for example. And the benefit of that is that they can bring in people outside of the accommodation team who might have some sort of input to the activities. But it's going to be a tool that's available, and we'll offer training on that as well in the future. Finally, the system has the annual declaration, in it, so you can fill in the questionnaire to declare that you're compliant and so on, and that's in the system too. So I'm just keeping an eye on time, and I think I've done that fairly quickly, which I'm kind of pleased about, because I do want a chance to have questions. The next steps of the project are that we're working on a communication, transition and implementation plan. So you will be getting some comms about what's going to happen, when, what you need to do. There'll be early life support. We'll be putting forward further resources as we go along. And we will have a repeat of this roundtable. And we're really relying on your feedback to tell us what else you want in terms of roundtable to support the transition to the new system and any specific training that might be useful. Phase 2 development will be probably things like the self-audit, how we use reporting and so on. I don't know if Dave and Paul have got any other thoughts about phase 2 development. I think we're just worried about phase 1 at the moment.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, we want to make sure we can sort of walk before we can run. There's a lot more functionality we can start adding into the system to record things. The key that we sort of try to aim for is real time. You know, so all of these complaints, the audits, those triannual audit plans, they're all available. You can update them at any point. All the emails can be sort of triggered from the system to send you reminders as we approach target dates. But in the future, we do have some sort of ideas, but equally we'll monitor the feedback that we get from you guys. We'll send some regular sort of questionnaires out just to sort of say how you're finding it and how would you like the system to improve, and we'll review that as well.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what David said. It's really important that we get phase 1 firmly embedded, working, act upon the feedback, and then we'll consider next steps.
Thanks both. Code team, just a quick share of our email address and who we are. Do get in touch if you need any help at all in future. And that's really over now to the group to ask their questions. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, got a question when it comes to team training. So I know that you're developing the training at the moment. When it's available, will that also be managed through this platform?
It will, yeah. So sorry, Fiona. What we did with the phase 2 is we tried to launch the system literally with just an introduction email. So when you first log in on that dashboard, there's a little section to the right which just has all of the training material. And the feedback we did get off that sort of pilot group was that they were able to find their way through the system, they were able to find those training guides, and where they did have problems, in the main, they found their solutions that way.
Yeah, I was thinking about training on the code of conduct itself, because where we had the modules before on a different system, it's whether that training is going to be there.
Yeah,
so
that's
manage it.
We're looking for the coming year's projects of starting looking at another e-learning platform, Mel, because the one that we're offering before it kind of withdrew in a rather ungainly way, so we are looking at replacing that. That will be for general code training.
We can host that in the system as well. We've got the sort of the training and the resources, so we can sort of upload that, depending on the sort of format of the training.
Thank you.
Joanna?
I just want to double check. So to be absolutely clear, that what you're deeming the lead user, therefore the super user, is not at the moment the institutional lead. Somebody up in our senior leadership team would have no clue what to do with this. So I'm just double checking that I am right in my understanding.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think I probably confused that in what I said earlier. No, you determine who your super user is. You know, it should be someone in a position to have awareness of the sort of the code operational responsibilities,
And
as
also
well as the
just,
sort of
sorry, Fiona, I didn't mean to say that. I just wanted to give some feedback. I think particularly that one of being able to allocate any recommendations to actual different users, that's a really helpful thing.
yeah, good to hear that actually, because we've had quite a few discussions about that. So yeah, thanks for that
And
feedback.
yeah, and I think by being able to put other people that are contributing both to the audits and whatever on there, it also helps that thing that we talked at the last one in terms of getting the buy-in for wider than just like the accommodation team and everything else. So that's really good. Hopefully my next one will be a little bit more successful.
Yes, and
Easy
it
going.
does, it raises awareness across the institution, doesn't it, if
It does.
you're doing that. Yeah.
Can I just jump in, Fiona, on the back of Joanna's question? I was just going to say that with the super users and being able to assign actions to other people, it entirely depends on how large your institution is, how you want to manage it. So the options are there. It doesn't mean you have to do it that way. So you could just have someone added to the system as an inactive user, which would mean from your perspective as a super user, you could tell who the action was going to be managed by. Doesn't mean they have to come into the system to do it. It's just that you've got that record, so you can use it how it works best in your institution. But the system certainly gives us more options than we had before, so it's a really good move.
Thanks, Meredith.
We've gone very quiet.
People's brains whirring. I think what will be useful for us as a team is to get a feel for any sort of initial challenges that you see for your own organisation, and if you're happy to share them, that would be good, because we want to know about that stuff so that we can mitigate against it.
Fiona, sorry, I just had a thought as well, because there will be a period of sort of crossover between the two systems, just so you're aware, because you might still be having complaints or audit findings that are related to the old code. So we are kind of thinking that this 1st of May, is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. This 1st of May is kind of like everything relating to the new code will be on the new system, but still everything relating to the old code would be managed on the old system. That way we don't have those kind of two versions of the code confusing things.
But then we'd assume then that by the time that the next academic year comes, that we are all on the new one.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Yeah, it'll just be things like your audit recommendations will be coming through late into last year's code. So we don't want to kind of confuse things by having two versions of the code. We'll just say anything relating to the old code, put it on the old system. But as we start moving forward, we'll transition everything to the new system.
If I can just share my perspective on the new system, because it's been really great to be part of the testing team and see it and be able to give feedback on it. But what I find really exciting about it is a complete management tool. So whereas the current system, it is just an uploading portal. You just answer the questions and you're done. Whereas this gives us so much functionality to be able to manage the code in one place. So rather than having a separate CRM system or using a separate SharePoint site internally, you could load everything onto this site. So you can load all your attachments, your evidence for all of the sections, use it as a day-to-day management tool for your complaints, logging them as they come in, as they reach that escalated stage 2 or stage 3 stage. so you don't have to be using multiple systems. This gives you the options to just do everything in one place. So that's what I find really exciting about it. It's not just an uploading portal anymore. You can just use it as that if you want to, and a lot of people will do that to start with until they find their feet on it. But I think with the help guides, you'll actually find it really simple to use it, and I think we can really use it to great advantage in our institutions.
Thanks, Meredith. Joanna.
On the back of that, then, would we suggest, for example, if it was our year for an audit, to create, as we're gathering the information, etc., to actually gather it on here and make an auditor a person so they could come and have a look at it? Or is that how you might envisage it being used? Or is that how perhaps you, Meredith, are using it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not live yet, but I'm in I start my audit cycle in May, so this is going to be the tool that I'm going to be using. So that's my aim, is to start off on day one by putting everything into this system, and then it almost creates a fail-safe, because you know that you're meeting everything, because every single code line is set out individually. Yeah. So you can make sure you've got your evidence there, and the auditors will have access. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be using it as my tool for the audit.
Basically using the self-assessment tool as doing it, uploading the evidence, and then that's really helpful as well.
Yeah, on the self-audit side, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. So Dave's been able to create line by line sections so that you can really tick off each one individually to say, yeah, we can do that, we've done that. You can upload evidence. Some of them will just be a kind of yes, no, because it's not something that you can evidence against necessarily. It might be a kind of a way of acting or something, but for anything that you do need evidence, you could upload it, or alternatively, there is it an Excel document, Dave? Yep. So there's an Excel checklist as well that you could use. So if that's your preferred method, you can use that one, or you can use the current way of working and then just kind of do that declaration. So there's lots of options for you, and it's just a case of what works best for you, how many residences you might be managing. That might have an impact in it. But yeah, lots of different ways. But I will be using it when we start going into our cycle in May. It just feels a safer way of doing it, because you can't really go wrong if you tick all those boxes to say that you've got everything on there.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Meredith. Thanks, Joanna, for the questions. Karine, hi.
Hi, everybody. You've actually just answered part of my question, so thank you for that. I just wanted to, because the self-assessment tool does look really, really good, and I just wondered when you mentioned that there'd be some training available to us at some point in the not too distant future. I was just wondering when that might be, just so we can familiarise ourselves with it and we can work out how to just include it in our day-to-day operations if we feel there's something that we've achieved that's on that self-assessment, really.
Yeah, I mean, is that a general training on self-assessment, or specifically, because I think we're, as I said earlier, we're going to develop more training. We haven't got any timelines yet, because it's really over to you to tell us what you need. But I'm just thinking off the top that if we ran a round table to talk generally about how people do self-audits, and include also a block on using the tool. And before you answer that, Karine, I'm just going to let David come in.
Yeah, I guess on that one, what we're trying to do with that training is make it all self-serve anyway. So it should all be on the tool as PDFs, as videos. We're just sort of, at the moment, we're working with people just to sort of say, we've introduced it at the moment. Obviously Meredith's kind of found a way and fed back some things where she felt it was weak. We'll just improve on that, and we'll build it up. Hopefully we should have enough online resource that you're able to do it. If we then kind of get feedback saying, and we are going to test it again before this kind of 1st of May date, but if we again get feedback saying, maybe it would be a good idea come sort of May, June time to just have a couple of workshops for people to drop in and do that, then we'll just take that feedback and set something up. But we haven't formalised anything yet. We'll just play it by ear.
Yeah.
When,
I would
what's your
say, Dave,
timetable, Corinne? Sorry, Meredith.
I
Have you
haven't got a timetable as such. I just wondered, because I was just thinking
Yeah.
ahead, thinking if we know if there's training available, we could just start to have an idea of what's going to be on that self-assessment list, and I could just start planning, thinking how I can embrace it and include it in what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and then feed that out across the department, really. But the roundtables would be good, the workshops would be good going forward, so that we can reflect on it as well.
Yeah, thanks, Corinne.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, and I will probably make Dave blush, but I would say that Dave's user guides are fantastic, and they really walk you through each click by click what you need to do to get to the point that you need to fill in. So they really are idiot proof, let's say. So anyone will be able to pick them up and be able to know exactly where to go and what to do to fill that section in. So I don't think you're going to have much problem once you see them. I think follow-up roundtables will be able to iron out any issues, but I do think they are certainly some of the best that I've seen in a long time. So so we should be all right going into it.
The other thing too is we engage with an auditor, so she sort of went through each of those 252 code items and gave a little bit of sort of paragraph or two guidance just on what to do to sort of register your adherence to it.
And another thing is we haven't seen the checklists and things yet, and the auditor's checklists. All those resources are going to help us to understand how we're going to meet each of those lines. So the self-assessment checklist, it is literally each of the code lines separated out. So if you've got the code, you've got the self-assessment checklist. But what we haven't got at the moment, you and I as users, is we haven't got all those supporting documents. So when we get those, I think all the puzzle will come together. So I think we're just waiting for those last bits to be completed, and then the amount of resource that we'll have will really help us know what we need to provide to be able to meet those code lines.
It might be worth mentioning here at this point that although this roundtable is about the code new system, we are at the same time simultaneously getting the code through parliamentary approval. There's been some real fine-tuning, slight tweaks, and once that's gone, we'll then be in a position to update the self-audit guidelines, or rather the audit guidance, and make that available to everyone. That will obviously be for the new code, but I think it will be really helpful as a resource for your self-audits, planning ahead, identifying stakeholders in terms of other people who have responsibility for specific areas. So that will be coming. We'll probably stay on the call for a little bit longer if people do want to stop and talk and ask any other questions. And unless there's someone got anything burning now, do feel free to wander, but we will hang around as well.
Melanie, regarding your question for the track changes version, we don't have a document specifically for that. We can highlight the sections to you, but we don't have sort of a word for word document that we're sharing at the moment. I'll send you some slides that highlight the actual areas where the main differences are.
Thanks all for coming, those that are dashing off.
Just before we go, Fiona, can I just clarify, if anyone wants to attend the duplicate session, if they want to go through it again, they're welcome to do so, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought
that was the answer.
That was a joke then. But yes.
Thanks.
And if you have colleagues that couldn't make today, do let them know about that. Jo.
Show your face, Tracy.
I was going
I was going to
to
say she's
say
hiding in the background.
that. She's really there.
Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one little heads up. I should be on time for the next one, but I might be a few minutes late if I don't make it back on time.
As long as she's there, that's all that matters.
I'll certainly be there by the sort of like 5-10 minutes in.
I
Yeah,
can
that's
imagine
fine.
there may well be the need, and there'll be no problem with repeating this quite a few times, over the year
Mm,
as
Yeah.
people